Why the Iran-US conflict hurts your wallet. Imagine waking up tomorrow to find that petrol prices have jumped overnight. Groceries cost more, flight tickets are suddenly expensive, and even online shopping isn't as cheap as it was yesterday. You might think, I don't live in Iran or the United States, why should their conflict affect me? The surprising answer is that today's global economy is deeply connected. A conflict between these two countries can send shockwaves across the world, eventually reaching your wallet. It all starts with oil. Modern life depends on it. Cars, trucks, ships, airplanes, factories, and even the production of plastic and fertilizers rely on oil. Although the United States is one of the world's largest oil producers, the Middle East remains one of the most important energy regions on Earth. Any military conflict involving Iran immediately raises concerns about oil supplies. One reason is the Strait of Hormuz, a narrow waterway between Iran and Oman. Despite being only a few kilometers wide at its narrowest shipping lanes, around 20% of the world's oil trade passes through this route every day. It acts like a highway for global energy. If conflict threatens ships passing through this strait, oil companies and traders fear supply disruptions. Here's the important part. Oil prices don't only react to actual shortages, they'll also react to fear. If traders believe there is a risk that oil supplies could be interrupted, they start buying oil at higher prices. This pushes global oil prices up long before any real shortage happens. When crude oil becomes more expensive, the effects spread everywhere. Refineries pay more to produce petrol and diesel, so fuel prices increase. Trucking companies spend more transporting goods. Airlines pay more for jet fuel. Shipping companies face higher fuel and insurance costs. Businesses eventually pass these extra costs on to consumers. That is why food prices often rise during periods of high oil prices. Farmers use diesel-powered tractors, irrigation pumps, and harvesters. Fertilizers also require large amounts of energy to produce. Once crops are harvested, they must be transported to markets using trucks. Every step becomes more expensive, and those costs are reflected in the prices you pay at the supermarket. Manufacturing is also affected. Oil is not only used as fuel, it is also a raw material for plastics, chemicals, packaging, synthetic clothing, paints, and thousands of everyday products. As production costs increase, companies raise prices to protect their profits. The impact doesn't stop there. During geopolitical conflicts, shipping companies often face higher insurance premiums because sending cargo through risky regions becomes more dangerous. Some ships even take longer routes to avoid conflict zones. Both factors increase transportation costs, making imported goods more expensive around the world. Financial markets also react. When uncertainty increases, investors often move their money into assets they believe are safer, such as gold and the US dollar. As demand for gold rises, its price usually increases. At the same time, many other investments, including stocks in some sectors, can become more volatile as investors worry about slower economic growth. For countries that import most of their oil, such as India, Japan, and many European nations, higher oil prices create another challenge: inflation. Inflation simply means the average price of goods and services keeps rising. As fuel, transportation, manufacturing, and food all become more expensive, the overall cost of living increases. When inflation stays high, central banks may decide to keep interest rates elevated or even increase them further. Higher interest rates make home loans, car loans, and business borrowing more expensive. Companies may reduce hiring, consumers spend less, and economic growth slows. In other words, a conflict thousands of kilometers away can eventually influence your monthly budget, loan payments, and purchasing power. However, it's important to understand that not every conflict causes the same economic impact. If tensions ease quickly and oil continues flowing normally, prices often stabilize. But if fighting escalates, damages energy infrastructure, or disrupts shipping through the Strait of Hormuz, the consequences can become much more severe. So why does an Iran-US conflict hurt your wallet? Not because the conflict directly changes your income, but because it affects the world's most important commodity: oil. Higher oil prices increase transportation costs, manufacturing expenses, food prices, shipping costs, and inflation. Those higher costs eventually reach businesses, supermarkets, petrol stations, and finally, you. The next time you hear news about rising tensions in the Middle East, remember that it's not just a political story. It's an economic chain reaction that can influence the price of almost everything you buy. In today's interconnected world, a conflict in one region can become a cost of living problem for millions of people across the globe. The biggest question is, if tensions in the Middle East continue to grow, how much more will it cost the world and your wallet? Let me know what you think in the comments. And if you enjoy simple stories that explain money, business, and the global economy, don't forget to subscribe, because understanding how the world works today could help you make smarter financial decisions tomorrow.